What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest Shudder original movie. And to be quite honest with you, I knew nothing about this before I watched it. Every now and again, Shudder will upload a new movie and I will just jump on and watch it without reading anything about it at all. And sometimes that's the most fun for me. I really like just kind of jumping into a movie, not necessarily having the idea as to what I'm getting into. And the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is Dead Male. Dead Male is directed by Kyle McConaughey and Joe DeBauer. An ominous help note finds its way to a 1980s post office, connecting a dead letter investigator to a kidnapped keyboard technician. So I was looking forward to watching this. Like I said, went into it completely blind, just curious what the movie was going to be. And this was awesome. This is exactly the kind of movie that I want Shudder to be releasing. It's incredibly captivating, beautifully shot, suspenseful, very interesting. The only real issue I have with this movie is I feel like the non-linear storytelling sometimes breaks up the pacing in a way that's a little lower than I think a lot of audiences will appreciate. But that's a pretty minimal gripe considering just how great everything else in this movie is. And I'm going to talk about it with you a little bit today. So to set the scene of this movie, you literally open up with a man with a chain attached to his leg crawling out of a house trying to get a letter in the post office box in front of this house before someone can come and catch him. So we experience that scene and we're immediately jumped into a post office where we see this group of people who their entire jobs are to go through mail that is incorrectly postmarked or that is sent to the wrong address or that it's not spelled out correctly and track down where the mail is supposed to go. And one of the people who is working there stumbles across this blood-soaked letter and they first think it's a joke but decide that they want to investigate it further. And so a large portion of the movie is that we see these people that work in this department in the post office trying to figure out where these go in the 1980s. Then the other part of the movie is following the man who we saw at the beginning of the movie who was kidnapped, who he works with keyboards, and he meets this man who we later find out is his kidnapper that is also very interested in sound. He's an audiophile and he wants to be able to achieve this specific sound on this synthesizer that's supposed to sound like a woodwind, and that most of the synthesizers can't produce the sound at the quality that he would like it to. And so this character Josh, who works on these, is working together with him until he gets him to a point where he's aggravated and this man kidnaps him. And so the film is watching these two simultaneous storylines play out in a non-linear fashion to where it all comes together in the third act. So like I said, this movie was incredibly entertaining and there are a multiple amount of reasons why. But I want to start with the thing that I love the most about this movie, which is the visual presentation. I didn't see whether or not this was shot on film or digital. If it was shot on digital, they did such an incredible job at incorporating film grain that it felt authentic to the time period. This movie is beautiful. There are some shot selections in this that truly just took me to another time period, and I really wish more films were presented in this manner because it just adds so much texture and life to each and every frame and really kind of immerses you in the time period a lot better than films paying homage to specific periods in time now are done. And that's what I love so much about this movie is like visually and stylistically it's brilliantly done. The production design in this as well, whether it be the costumes or the look of specific places they're in the 80s, especially dealing with like audio equipment and like these synthesizers from the time period, they did a really brilliant job at portraying it in a way that feels authentic, because I feel like when you're trying to capture a specific period in time, paying attention to detail to those little elements is the most important thing that you can possibly do. The performances in this movie are incredible. Despite his limited screen time, the actor who plays the man that works in the post office at the beginning of the movie, incredible. Might be one of my favorite performances of the year so far, even though it's really subtle and there's not a lot of dialogue. He just felt like he was living that character. And that actor's name is Tomas Boykin. He was playing the character of Jasper, who is the one working in this mailroom. Just an incredible performance, and I feel like he does a really great job. John Fleck, who plays Trent, who is the villain in this who it's interesting because the movie never sort of alludes to the fact that he's done something like this before. But what I really like is that his character just has an obsession and it's clearly tied into his relationship with his mother and like his unhinged performance and the way that he goes from just inviting, accepting, and kind into like completely and totally deranged territory. It was really impressive. And then Sterling Macer Jr., who plays Josh, who's the man who is kidnapped, he is also fantastic in this. I feel like he's incredibly believable. Same thing, he's incredibly charming and personable, and then he gets put in this situation where he has to fight for survival, and when that instinct is turned on, his character does like a complete 180, and I just really loved that about this movie. And I think all of these performances work together really well to create a compelling experience. And this is very different than a normal like guy gets kidnapped and his kidnapper is tormenting him. This is a movie about obsession. It is about having an obsession and pursuing it to a degree where you're willing to risk people's lives for it. And it's interesting because there are so many people out there who have hobbies and interests that take it to a degree that a lot of people find very extreme. And I think this movie is symbolic of that idea of obsession, and that there's a particular point where you can make it out of control to where you harm others around you just to get that. And I think that that can be applied to anything in life. I mean, you can look at it as something like addiction, or you can look at it as just like having a hobby where you're willing to put that hobby before anyone else. And I thought that the way that it was conveyed was just fascinating. I kept asking myself so many questions about this character. And I think like incorporating so much of the technical side of how synthesizers worked made the movie really fascinating. And the audio plays such a pivotal role in this, whether that be the score, which is phenomenal. It's a very synth driven score, very eerie and ominous. It reminded me of a lot of movies from the 80s that have very similar scores, and there was clearly a lot of attention to detail in that. And I love that audio plays such a key component in this, and the way audio is recorded in specific scenes. There's one scene in particular where Jasper is in a bunk at like this home that he lives at, where I think it's for homeless people that like have a job they go to each and every day and they want to get an address. And Trent tracks him down there, and they're having a conversation in this bunk bed. And the way that the audio was recorded and how they kind of layered it really felt like something from a different time period, and I really appreciated that a lot. I think that it's clear that the filmmakers of this movie have a passion for not just like visual presentation, but for how audio is recorded. And that really made it a fulfilling experience. And I just loved that idea of obsession. And then looking at this thing about dead male, that's not something I was really familiar with. And I thought the process of it was fascinating, and how Jasper works with this guy who tracks down addresses for him based on this specific level of criteria. It was just so cool to experience, and it was something that I really liked a lot about this movie. And like I said, I don't have a ton of issues with this film. My biggest one is sometimes the non-linear narrative structure makes it a little bit difficult to settle in completely. And then there's like overlap where we'll repeat scenes when we get to specific moments that feel like it kind of filled up the runtime a little bit too much. That's a very minor gripe in comparison for all of the things that this movie does incredibly well. And I think if any of this sounds particularly interesting to you, you'll really enjoy this movie. I really liked the pace of it. I thought it worked really well, and it's a movie that I'm actually going to be looking forward to rewatching in the future. So have you seen Dead Male? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredibly entertaining and engaging, and it's one of the better things that's been released on Shudder in the past few months. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.